Hi, welcome back to Barry's Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I made this award shelf using a single board from the home center. So the purpose of this shelf is to have a surface for holding trophies and a bunch of pegs for holding ribbons. The board that I'm using for this project is quarter sawn red oak that I got at the home center. I don't think they priced it as quarter sawn, but it's actually a pretty nice board. It had some interesting figure to it as well. Very dense. And I'm cutting these into strips so that I can turn the pegs. If you're ever thinking about a reason to have a lathe, this is one thing that you can do. This is kind of production turning. I made 20 something of these, trying to repeat them and to make them as close to the same as I could. I'm not going to show you all of them that I made. I'm just going to show you a batch of 3 here. It's the same basic pattern over and over again. There are 3 different lengths. The top row extends out about a ½ inch more than the middle row, and that's about a ½ inch more than the bottom row. And what that does is it makes it so that when the ribbons are hanging on the shelf, that they're not right on top of each other, and gives it some depth. One advantage of doing a row like this is you can kind of look at them and make sure that they look about the same. This is the closest I've gotten to doing production turning so far, and let me just say that I have a lot of respect for people who can do that and do that well. I'm cutting this S-curve on the bandsaw, and these are for the side supports. They're basically the inverse of each other, so I can cut 2 pieces from one board. And where it's not perfect, I just clean that up on the sander. And this is a simple design that's actually matching some existing furniture, so it has a simple round over on the edges. And here I'm marking for the pegs. There are going to be 3 rows, and then I'm going to stagger the pegs so that none of them is directly above any other peg. So there are 22 pegs. The bottom row are staggered by 3 inches, middle row by 3 inches, and the top row by 3 inches, and it forms a kind of a zigzag pattern. And I use the depth stop on my drill press. And the part we all love, sanding. And after they're sanded, I'll do a little dry fit to make sure it all fits together. And as I mentioned earlier, this is going to match some existing furniture, so I'm going with a golden oak stain. It's actually a little bit darker than this, so I'm going to follow it up with a second coat of a darker color. I found with oil-based stains that they kind of stay close to the first coat. The second coat never absorbs as much, so adding the darker to the lighter color was a way to modify the light color without making it too dark. And I'm using the board itself to hold the pegs while the stain dries. And I didn't show it, but I did cut a rabbet in the upright supports, and I'm also using dowels, as you can see. Normally not a big fan of dowels, but they get the job done on this one. Dowels are not really my favorite, but I'd rather use them than to fill the board with screws and nails. And I did scrape off the finish on the board to make sure that the glue would adhere. And I use lots and lots of clamps. And I'm using epoxy instead of wood glue to hold the pegs. There's really not a lot of contact area, and I thought the epoxy might be just a little bit stronger, and you just never know with kids. They might hang on the pegs, tug on them more than they need to. And for finish, I just used a spray lacquer. And you can't see it, but there's just a plain Lazy Susan underneath, and I put some craft paper over it. It really helps to be able to turn the piece around, especially with all those pegs and inner corners. And here it is, hung on the wall. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really appreciate you watching. Take care, I'll see you next time.